my ultimate goal is to uh, help the world understand that that not eating is just as normal as eating. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think people just panic, don't they? The idea of just missing a meal, let alone going for several days. So before we get into it, obviously we're going to chat today about your you've just spent, was it 4 days?
4 days in the forests, 5 days fasted, yeah. Four
Perfect.
and a
And that was,
half days if you want to be exact.
if you want to be
Fasted.
exact, sure. And that was a water fast, wasn't it? Just
Yes.
water. Okay, so we're going to delve a little bit more into that. Before we do you mind just quickly introducing yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm Roderick Lambert. I'm a midlife metabolic health coach with a focus on getting your mitochondria purring once again to
Mm.
slow down the process of accelerated aging that much of Western society is unfortunately bringing upon themselves from a very early age. So by the time we get to midlife, we see the effects, we feel the effects, and it's not too late. You can still do something about it, but it does require you rethinking a little bit about how you go about your daily life. So that's how I help my clients.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Yeah, you're right. And it's really good though that you sort of included in that there is hope. Just takes a little bit of effort, but we can we can reverse things and we can definitely make improvements. So this is not your first water fast, is it, Roderick? You've done this before.
Not at all, not at all. I mean, I started fasting, or trying, intermittent fasting or time restricted eating,
Mm,
7 years ago when I went on my own sort of personal transformation. It was one of the elements that I introduced into my lifestyle that helped me to drop those 20 kilograms in
mm,
7 months. And that was the classic kind of 16-8. A lot of people know about that. A lot of people have
yeah.
tried it or do it, where you don't eat for 16 hours and then you eat your meals within 8 hours. But after a few years, as I developed my fat adaptation, which means your ability to better and more efficiently and more naturally delve into your fat stores for fuel rather than
Mm,
relying on blood sugar. I started to experiment with longer fasts, so 24 hour, 36, maybe up to 48. And then it occurred to me that, people get, as you said, worked up about not eating, about a bit of hunger. We're even kind of from the environment, from family, from modern, advertising, we're told, feeling a bit hungry, go and eat something, that hunger is a bad thing. But when you think
mm,
about it, we spent the entire uh, and our entire evolutionary progress up until this point, until about 100 years ago, maybe, even less probably, actually experiencing hunger frequently. Whether it had been day to day or even for periods in different seasons when there have been scarcer food supplies, etc. So it's something we're absolutely perfectly adapted to, and the science of human metabolism and physiology backs that up. So I thought, well, people need to hear this. So how do people like spectacular stories. So I'm going to do something called the fasting challenge. In fact, it started off as the fasted march, but then I changed it to the fasting challenge. So 5 years ago, I think it was, I started with my first one, 24 hours, going to march 28 kilometers. So I did that. Next year, I thought, well, that was pretty easy, so I'll build on that. So I did 48 hours and I marched about 60 kilometers in the hills this time. Then I did 5 days fasted. And during the first four of those, I staggered a marathon. So I jogged a marathon over those 4 days in total, that is. And last year I did 4 days fasted and hill hiking. That was similar in the same area as, in fact, I was this time. And that was 70 kilometers hiking in the first 2 days of that fast, and then 2 days just sitting around the computer doing work and stuff. And so I thought this year, what can I do again to expand it, to try something a bit different? So I thought 5 days fasted, okay. Still my limit, by the way. Since I've been doing this, people have written in comments or written to me. So I do 10-day fasts once a year. I got people who do 20-day fasts. I've heard about people doing 20-day dry fasts. I mean, these are things far beyond my current capacity at the moment. But I thought, well, I'll add the element of sleeping wild in the forests and off grid. Well, I'll tell you how that went later. But so that was the goal, to spend basically 5 days fasted, um, basically 4 nights in the forest, living
Mm,
just out of what I have in my backpack, off grid, allowing myself with a phone for safety, because
yeah,
all you need is a sprained ankle, and you're
yeah, of course.
stuck in the forest by yourself, because I was by myself. And allow myself like 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, just to do a quick video and post it
Yeah.
online. Didn't realize, of course, that the coverage is pretty iffy in this area. I mean, sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't. So
Mm.
anyway, that was the plan this year.
Wow. So you don't just water fast. You move, like you get exercise in and a huge lots and lots of steps and things like that. Is that not exhausting?
Well, now we're getting into, what actually happened. I think, yes, it is exhausting. I mean,
Yeah.
the one when I did the staggered marathon, I was feeling kind of a bit listless on the fourth day. I think
Yeah.
I also overdid it with electrolytes. Last year, that second hike, which was 15 kilometers uphill, off, in the terrain, that was when I got to the top. It was like, whew, I had to sit there with a coffee at this little hut
Okay.
right on the peak of that mountain, and just kind of recover a bit, because that's pretty tough. This time, I had a pretty heavy backpack on me because I had
Yeah.
all my equipment for 4 days. Luckily, no food, otherwise I wouldn't have fit it all in. And yeah, the second day at the end, when I'd already got under my belt something like 25 kilometers by the end of that second day, shoulders absolutely aching from carrying
Oh,
the rucksack, and my calves were stiff from walking uphill, because it was pretty much all of it was uphill.
yeah.
And there were moments when if I stood up quickly, then I could feel a slight lightheadedness, etc. I mean,
Mm,
the thing about the thing about fasting and using your fat for fuel is that it's a steady constant. Once you get fat adapted, it's a good source of fuel.
yeah.
But I don't think, at least in my experience, it doesn't quite does it's a little bit slower at regulating, the blood sugar levels than if you were actually eating, or yeah, eating. So a couple of occasions I thought, okay, I better not get up too quickly from a squat or whatever. And yeah, and sleeping out in the wilderness. Again, we're getting into the experience of it in the
Yeah.
forests. I'm sure I've sent you a few pictures of my little camps with just a tarp strung up and a carry mat and a sleeping bag underneath.
Mm,
It's not the most comfortable, let's face it.
no.
We're not used to sleeping
No.
like that, and it's not that comfortable. And you get interrupted at night with when the rain comes or storms were passing by, etc. So it's not the perfect environment for regeneration, even perhaps for fasting, because fasting
Mm,
essentially, after a couple of days, becomes an extremely regenerative process inside you. So yeah, but at the same time, people like spectacular stories, as I said. So if I say I didn't eat for 5 days and I walked 70 kilometers, that catches attention more than I didn't eat for 5 days and I went around my normal stuff, doing my work on the computer and putting the kids to bed. That's less of an. It's gonna, in the day of the
yeah.
scroll, it
Yes.
won't stop people quite so much.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So you mentioned that you drank coffee, obviously, and you've got the water, and you said something about electrolytes. Did you intake anything else?
No, I took with me 5 liters of water, which itself is 5 kilograms of weight, along with all the other stuff. The coffee I only had because I happened to be at the very top of this mountain, I suppose you can call it, 1,290 meters above sea level. There's a hut at the top. It's interesting. It's right on the Bavarian and Czech border. In fact, the border goes across the terrace, which must have been interesting during the Iron Curtain. But it's a German hut, and they do this terrible, awful coffee. I think it's instant from a big kind of vat, €4, which I thought was ridiculous in a mug. But I must say, I had two of them because even so, It tasted great. But otherwise, I didn't have coffee because you're not allowed to light a fire in that area anyway, and I
Right.
wasn't going to carry stuff to make coffee because it was
Okay.
heavy enough already. So otherwise, I didn't have coffee. Electrolytes, yes, I took about 1.5 packets of these. Electrolytes, Hunter and Gather can recommend. So I
Yeah.
don't, I'm not an affiliate, but I do recommend them in terms of the ingredients they use, which is salt, which is of course sodium chloride, magnesium and potassium in the water that I was drinking. And that was all the liquids that I consumed. In fact, I ran out of water, of course, because 5 liters isn't nearly
Oh,
enough for that period. I managed to get a little refill at the hut when I was up there on the
okay.
second day. And then by the third day, I actually went to a stream that was, I was up
Mm.
quite close to the source of it. It was a stream that was actually quite it was flowing quite rapidly, which after the this dry spring, most of the streams seem not to be flowing in that area, and I filled up my 5 liters with that.
Okay.
But that's I mean in the end that's great water. It's natural, it's structured, it's fresh, it's low deuterium because we're higher above sea level, we're at a higher latitude. So yeah, and maybe you might worry about microbes in the water or something,
Mm.
but actually I was absolutely fine.
You were fine. Did it taste good?
I think, water generally, I mean, apart from depending on the
Yeah.
mineral content, maybe changes the flavor. If you get it from a spring with I don't know, higher iron in it, then you taste it. It's like blood,
Yeah,
doesn't
of
it? But
course.
this
Yeah.
was just tasted like quite normal.
No, fair enough.
And
So you
plus you add the
mentioned,
electrolytes, so it's all salty
oh,
anyway.
of
So
course, yeah. So that masked anything, yeah. So you mentioned that obviously you had to take all the water. What else did you take with you?
wow. Well, I took with me a huge tarp. And the guy ropes. I took a sleeping bag that I'd recently purchased that keeps you warm to -10. Although in the summer, even in the forest, you don't really need quite that extreme insulation. A
Yeah.
carry mat with insulation on the bottom. And then it was, a couple of spare socks and pants and t-shirts, a lot of water. They electrolyze various things like and two power banks. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'll tell you about the off-grid bit in a second because that was
Yeah,
probably
sure.
the biggest failure. But
Okay.
two power banks, which in themselves are big things, they're pretty heavy.
Yeah.
All the cables, what a pain. What else? Some waterproofs in case of rain, and my wide-brimmed hat.
Yeah. Oh, and one toilet roll because I
And
remember
one
seeing this.
toilet roll, which I did in the end use.
You did, okay.
Yes.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. It can't have been comfortable though. I mean, you've already touched upon that, but it must have been. Did that affect the fast at all in terms of how it made you feel because you weren't able to have a really good night's sleep?
Um, it certainly affected my energy levels. I mean, that third
Yeah.
day, I intentionally didn't do much. I sat
Yeah.
around in the sun in the forest with my book, and most of the day read that.
Yeah, just chill.
So even so, I still managed to walk 10 kilometers that day. I don't know how, but anyway. And I was feeling pretty tired. Not like, yeah, pretty tired. And I think that's part of it is the fast, part of it's the extreme, the heavy physical
Mm,
demands, but part of it is the disruptive sleep. That first night's sleep was really good, and I was in a hammock. And maybe, next time I have to get a better hammock and work harder and finding a place to string it up. The rest of the nights were on the carrier mat, and that was less comfortable. I mean, it's quite hard to find flat terrain.
yeah.
We're on a slope of a mountain. Um, and as I said, the weather was really nice. It was 26,
Oh,
27
that's good.
degrees, sunny during the day. In the mountains, of course, the clouds coming across and mist in the morning, but there was lots of storms. Luckily, just about missing me because I don't think you want to be in the forest with a lightning storm.
No, gosh, no.
And I was a bit nervous about that, I
Yeah.
must say. But when it starts raining on a tarp heavily, that wakes you up at night,
Yes, of
and
course.
then you look around. And the other thing about sleeping wild, again, it's kind of an experiential thing, is the soundscape is totally different to when you're at home. So
The animals, maybe?
well, the birds, the animals, twigs falling, crunching, little
Mm.
animals. running around in the undergrowth somewhere near you. So you've got this soundscape. Beautiful. The beautiful part is, that sunset and the birds all stop
Mm.
singing, and then they start again at sunrise. It's the most perfect example of circadian rhythms you
Wow.
can think of. But at the same time, this is a wild area. It's a big wild area. So there are
Mm.
wild. There's even, there should be somewhere there wolves, lynxes, um, deer, lots of deer. Wild boar was my biggest worry, and of
Yes.
course all the other small mammals and birds and insects. Insects. The insects don't stop. They go on all night. They're sort of they're not cicadas, but they make a similar noise. It's like this background
Yeah.
of so it's a different soundscape. And when I had my eye mask because I was going to sleep, falling pretty ready to sleep at 9 p.m. Anyway, even though it was still a little bit light after the
Mm.
sunset. Um, and uh, and so, to get the full blackout, and then your senses really wake up. So you hear every little crunch near you, and so sometimes you're like looking up, taking your eye mask off and
Just
looking if that will
thinking.
happen to be a boar or something, because they're aggressive, and they
Yes.
weigh a ton, and they can easily damage you if they
Oh,
decide
yeah.
to attack you. So, which by the way, I used for defense deterrence. First of all, marking the territory around the tarp with my own urine.
Oh, interesting.
Apparently,
Okay.
it puts them off.
Okay.
Secondly, sprinkling pepper and ground chilies around. So everything's. I was sneezing when I was doing that. And then I took a half liter of white vinegar, 30% white vinegar that I had cloths that I hung up and soaked it in that. So for 4 days I stank of vinegar. It was like I was basically salt and vinegar crisps.
Yeah, literally. Wow, okay, that's really interesting that you knew to do that. That is not something that that I would have thought of. That was really interesting. But obviously you didn't see anything, luckily, at all.
I
Anything
saw a
scary.
couple of deer during the day,
Yeah, but
beautiful,
nothing
huge
scary.
things. No, nothing scary, nothing scary. No, but just a few weeks earlier, I'd gone out to test my equipment for one night on the nearby hill opposite the forest circadian retreat, and on the way down at about 6:30 in the morning or something, I did run into a wild boar. It was my first
Oh my
encounter with
God.
a wild boar. One on the path in front of me, about 60 meters away, and a whole bunch of them in the undergrowth,
Yeah.
crashing around. And yeah, that was pretty scary because if they decide to charge you, then you've got to do something, like get
Yeah, no,
behind,
you do.
up a tree, behind a tree, put something in the way, don't know what. But luckily, I sort of faced it down. The worst thing you do is you turn around and run. Okay, so you don't do
Okay.
that. You back off slowly. I didn't know that. I just stood there and I puffed out my chest and made deep noises. I was swearing at it in English.
Oh,
Maybe it understood. And although it was a Czech boar, and it went off into the forest, came back to the path, started coming towards me, and then decided to join its mates down in the undergrowth, and I heard them like crashing around until they disappeared somewhere.
that is scary. They are huge. I've seen them myself. They are huge, aren't
Yeah,
they? And some of them have
tusks. Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
yes. Remind us where you are again, Roderick, because you just then said Czech. Some people would think you're in England.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I live in Czechia, and this place is in a particularly beautiful natural area down in the southwest part, right on the Bavarian border. In fact, it's a huge forested nature reserve on the Schumava Hills in Germany. In German, it's called the Böhmerwald. That's where the Forest Circadian Retreat is, just at the very bottom of these hills, at the feet of these hills. And yeah, it's and in the center of it, there's actually a level one national park where actually it's kind of primeval forest. They're letting basically regenerate themselves with minimum human influence. This is the wider part of a large buffer zone where there is some human what's the word intervention into the
Mm.
forest, and they get timber from the forest, etc. But yeah, so down there right on the Czech-German border, in fact the whole area, the border divides the area at the top of the hills. um each side is, the Burma Wald is the German side, or the Bavarian national, what's it called, Bavarian National Park, I'm not sure. The Czech side is called the Šumava. And interesting, a little fact that most people don't know is that mountain range, I mean, the tallest mountain is about 1,400 of that range. So it's not that high, but still.
So substantial.
Uh, is actually the watershed of Europe. So on one side, the water flows down into the Danube, down out into the what is it, Aegean or something, and the other side, the Czech side, actually, it flows, or not quite well. Anyway, the other side, the water flows down north into the Elbe and then out into the North Sea, Baltic Sea.
Okay.
So it's actually literally the center, the heart of Europe for not just geographically,
Hmm.
even geopolitically, but also geologically.
Interesting. Thank you for that. So, anything that didn't go to plan or that surprised you or that wasn't what you expected?
So didn't go to plan was the off-grid part. I
Okay.
mean, the next time if I want to do something off-grid, literally I have to just leave the devices at
Right.
home. That's the only
Right.
way. There's such a strong, even though my screen time was down and I really did kind of limit it,
Mm.
the first thing is, yeah, it's the damn, social media, etc. So, that's the first thing. So although I wasn't really, once you post a video in the morning, an update on what you're doing, uh, you first of all want to go back and see if someone's,
Yeah.
liked, commented,
Yeah.
views, all
Yeah.
that terrible, those vanity metrics. Secondly, you need to stimulate the algorithm to
Yeah.
respond to comments. So it really those that social media, well, mobiles in general have us in their grip. I
They
mean,
do.
it's hard to let go. I think the only way is really just to leave it behind.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't have done though because I was by myself. On Friday, a friend came to join just sort of overnight. But really, you'd want to go in pairs at least if you're going to do that
Mm.
proper off-grid, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So that wasn't such a success. And then I also wanted to use a normal paper map and a
Hmm.
compass, which I did try to do, but then I used my digital map. There's
Mm.
a very, very good tourist or very good map, Czech app actually called Mappy.com. Recommend it because it's globally, definitely does Europe very well. I don't know about the rest of the world. Excellent for hiking, skiing,
Mm.
cycling, canoeing, etc. And the detail you get on a digital map where you can zoom in to literally,
Yes, of
accuracy
course.
of maybe 10, 20
Yeah.
meters, whereas the most accurate map I found was 1 to 25,000,
Mm.
is it's like, I would love to have a map that had a one to what would it be? 1 to 100,000 or something like that. So is that right? Or was it the other way around? 1 to 15,000 or 1 to 10,000 or something like that. So that there's a real level of granularity in the paper map. But no, so that didn't work out. The off-grid didn't work out. And the other thing
Yeah.
that, someone said to me, oh, grounded, lying on the ground, grounded all the time.
Mm.
No, in fact, probably did less grounding than I would normally, because wearing your hiking boots. So you're in these sort of, what they are, rubber, plastic, and all the soles
Yeah.
are, these things are these days. So most of the day wearing them. I mean, when I was sitting there reading my book, I took off my socks and shoes and put my feet on the
Mm.
ground. Great. But otherwise, no grounding there. At night, while I'm closer to the geomagnetic, weak magnetic force of the Earth, nevertheless, I'm on a carrying mat that's made of some, man-made material with a layer of insulation foil underneath. I'm in
Mm.
a sleeping bag made of God knows what man-made materials. So literally not grounding, especially in a hammock, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was to be expected, not disappointing as such, but yeah, no. Unfortunately, I'll take away I have to say that the romantic idea of grounding for 5 days non-stop, what's better than sleeping on the ground in contact with the ground or using some conductive material that would keep the contact with the ground. But no, so those two things for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and by Saturday, I was pretty exhausted, and I
Mm.
decided in the afternoon that I would skip that last night in the forest. So I came
Okay.
back in the late afternoon, continued the fast till Sunday, but decided I really would like to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah. Was it the sleep that was that like the deciding factor? You just didn't want to do another bad night.
Well, we tend to separate. things out. But the sleep is part of the energy. It's part of
Of
the
course.
ability to
Yeah.
regenerate, etc. So it was both. So it was the physical demands and the interrupted sleep, both together.
Yeah.
They created a yeah. No, I was tired. I was
Yeah.
tired, not not mentally, but physically tired, and my shoulders hurt
Yeah,
from
of
4
course.
days carrying. Because every morning I'd pack up, put it all in, walk somewhere else, whatever, hike around, find another spot, unpack it. That was also a pain in the posterior because
Mm.
packing all that stuff is damp because forests are simply damp.
Oh, of course.
It rained, everything was damp inside. Then you unpack all this damp stuff. You set up a new place. You have to think about how. That was interesting. That kind of how, because some of the forests had been already cut down a bit. They do it selectively, of course. It's not they just wipe out the whole forest.
Yeah.
These are managed forests, but sometimes there weren't enough trees in the right kind of constellation for me to hang up
To
a
make
tarp
your
and then
house.
underneath it put in the hammock because the hammock was actually a bit nicer to sleep on. So it was kind of a what would I call it? A geometric
Yeah, challenge.
physics kind of operation to try and work out how to fit it so that I would be under the tarp. The tarp would be at a slope. Yeah, there was flat ground underneath for my carry mat, etc. So, but anyway, I was just fed up putting stuff in and out, folding it
Yeah.
all up, stuffing sleeping bags into things. I had an inflatable pillow and
Mm.
that sort of thing. And I smelt of vinegar.
Yes, of course. Well, you did put yourself through it. I mean, it's not for everybody, even though, somebody will say, "Oh, it's only 4 days," but 4 days in that kind of a situation can feel like, well over a week. So that, yeah, I can see why that was tough. And by the sounds of it, it was by far your toughest challenge yet because you really took yourself off.
Yes, yes. I think,
Yeah.
if I compare it to last year, which was in the same place,
Mm.
same actual forest routes, but not sleeping there,
Yes.
um, this was tougher, and the difference would be the lack of or the interrupted sleep. Um,
Yeah. And the
uh,
physical carrying of your stuff, I think that must have affected you, like you
that's
said.
did make a big difference, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Have you had a massage since you've been back? Because I think you need one.
No, I haven't. No, no. My friend who joined me, he's just did his exams to be I'm not sure what you call it, but it's a physiotherapist and trainer.
Yeah.
So he gave me a few stretches that I've been
Okay.
doing. But actually, Sunday when I woke up, I was still a bit stiff, but not too bad. And then I had a few sessions on my infrared panel,
Of course, yeah.
and yeah, today I don't feel the calves on Monday and Tuesday were
Yeah.
still tight, but otherwise fine.
Yeah. And do you know if did you weigh yourself before and after? Was that something of interest to you?
It is because that's what most people think about when they think of fasting.
Yes.
You don't eat
Yeah.
because we're also brainwashed by this calorie in, calorie out
Yeah.
thing. And I made my watch was measuring my active calories, not my basic basal metabolic rate, but my basal metabolic is about 1700 a day. So altogether, in those 4 days in the forest, I burnt about 11,500 calories, and I didn't ingest any. So, I mean whatever. You ask a psycho meathead to explain what that means, whether I should be dead or not. Uh, but um, yes, I did weigh myself. I don't have scales at the Forest Circadian Retreat, but on the 11th, which was the Saturday before I started on the Tuesday night was my last meal. 77.7 kilograms. I'm a bit embarrassed because my long-term average of the last sort of 4 years has been 72, 73. So I seem to have the
Okay.
last year picked up a few kilograms. Um, that's the beer. Don't tell anybody. Um,
Oh,
but
Roderick.
and then I came back. I broke the fast on Sunday slowly.
Mm.
If you're interested, I can tell you how I did that because there's a
Yeah,
certain
definitely. We'll come to
thing to it.
that.
It's not just you don't just binge on your favorite snacks.
Yeah,
And the Monday morning on the 20th, I was 73.2. So all in all, that's 4.5 kilograms
that's good.
down. Um,
That's
this is something I think people make a lot of mistakes. Last year, my mum called me and said, "But why are you doing this?" She was worried, of course.
of
Why are you
course.
doing
Yeah.
this, Roger? You don't need to lose any more weight.
Yeah.
But it's not about losing weight. Absolutely. Any type of fasting, most people, the time restricted eating, have found that it helps with weight management. Absolutely. You do a 20-day fast. Yes, you're going to drop God knows how many. And indeed, I felt my body tighten up. My waist shrunk, although I didn't measure it. I could start seeing
Good feeling.
the muscle
Mm,
definition was better,
mm,
etc. I mean, you've
yeah.
physically shrunk a bit, even after just after 5-day fast, a 4.5-day fast. But already the next day I was 74 and a half, which is 1.3 kilograms heavier.
Mm,
Um, but today again, I'm down 1 kilogram. So the point being is that only part of that weight loss during the fast is going to be actual physical matter inside you,
mm,
like
yeah.
fat. Okay. The rest of it is also physical matter, but it's water
Water. Yeah.
changes, glycogen replenishment. I mean, we hold a lot of glycogen, we hold our glycogen in muscles and the liver. And when you're on a fast like that, then you are using those stores. You don't deplete them because otherwise you would faint and your brain you would you would fall unconscious as a preventive
Mm,
measure to protect the brain, or I don't know what exactly. But nevertheless, you're running at a lower and glycogen binds water. So by using this muscle glycogen, you are releasing also water from the body. So that's part of the weight. Then a lot of regenerative processes start after about 18, 24 hours. So the various things like stomach lining is
mm,
completely replaced, I think, during 4 hours, 4 days, sorry, fast. Because it goes into a different, switches into a different mode, your entire digestive system. There are all sorts of metabolites and things that are created during the standard 24 hours of a day as your mitochondria metabolize food for let's put it simply like that. So these start to get cleaned up and removed, which is the process of autophagy, which is like eating
mm,
yourself. That cleanup of these type of things. After I think it's about 3 days roughly, then you get this another process, apoptosis, where the cells that can't be repaired or recycled actually get set. So the self-destruct switch goes on, and they die and they're removed. So there are lots of things going on. These things are being, or something's being recycled, something's being evicted from the body. Um, and so this all impacts what is going on. But interesting, a recent study that came across my desk was about fasting for 12 days. I'm not sure how many, 20 volunteers or whatever, and they used an MRI to image the liver. It actually physically shrunk by 20% over those 12 days. Partially that will be probably a bit of ectopic fat. I didn't read the study in detail, what sort of background the actual subjects had. But the part of it will be liver glycogen, for instance, storing less glycogen. Part of it will be, let's say, cleanup. So you could
mm.
talk about a longer fast like this as being kind of the ultimate detox.
Yes.
Because you are allowing your body to switch into a mode that isn't growth, it's regeneration. And that's the long, 4 days, 5 days, actually, it was 4.5 days actually fasted. Some people do longer. I mean, it's certainly
Mm,
a recommendation to do a longer fast like that once a year. At least some people do, or something like that once a quarter, for instance. And that brings me to perhaps something, people watching on the Halestra platform are interested in is actually that kind of stress response, the immune system, etc. So physiologically, one of the things that happens is you start to produce stem cells or upregulate stem cells, both even the marrow stem cells after about this is longer, 4 or 5 days and longer which is the fountain of youth, at least a lot of people tell you. But our ability to produce stem cells being kind of a blank check for your body to then imprint the machinery of a certain speciality, if you like, a liver cell, brain cell, heart cell, well, heart, but not heart, but some sort of tissue. So our production goes down with age. So fasting will help to replenish or push back on that a little bit, but
mm,
also the vagus nerve, etc. That the autonomous nervous system. And this is where the forest comes in, and this is really important because the forest has a number of physical aspects that actually encourage your autonomous nervous system to go into the rest and digest mode, the parasympathetic. And that's if you're the, it's perhaps a shortcut to say the more time you spend in the parasympathetic mode, the more time your body has for regeneration and healing. Um,
Mm.
and generally, our modern lives in urban environments, doing, all the million things we have to do in the day, all those
Yeah.
impressions and things we don't even consciously notice,
Mm.
they're keeping us a large part of the time in that sympathetic, the fight, flight, freeze mode. So forests actually have a number of things that help you and encourage your autonomous nervous system to spend more time in the parasympathetic. Sorry, in the yes, the parasympathetic. And that is things like the light frequencies. So
Mm.
because of the canopy, because of the fact that the UV, for instance, is absorbed by the leaves and plants, there's less UV. UV is absolutely critical to human biology. Nevertheless, it is meant to be a hormetic stressor, so that's removed, reduced.
Yeah.
The leaves and the canopy of a forest, the bushes, etc., they actually reflect the near infrared, which is what the group of scientists around Bob Fosbury and Glenn Jeffries are talking about this biological window. The plants don't use it, we need it. So it's a beautiful
Mm.
symbiosis of plants and mammals. So you're getting actually not as much as if you were in the direct sun, but
Mm.
the balance of the spectrum and the intensity of what's there of each part of the spectrum of light is changed. So you're kind of charging up your cellular battery with near infrared. A lot of green, plants,
Mm.
leaves look green because they don't use certain frequencies of the green. They're reflecting the green back off, and that has certain, it seems, impact on, for instance, brain cell regeneration, nervous system, pain reduction, immunity. So that's just the light. Then I'm going to look this word up. I had to look this word up, but it's also pretty fascinating that, for instance, plants trees emit these compounds, for instance, phytonsides. There you go. They're actually, these are being emitted because trees, plants, etc., communicate not just electrically or using light in their root systems and their various systems they have, but us across an area. So if you're within the proximity of trees, you're breathing in these particles, organic particles, compounds that again. Have been or suggest that again it has a positive effect on things like the natural killer cells I was talking about. Natural killer cells being the cells that go around kind of attacking cancer cells in your body, etc.
Yeah.
So, and again, that the autonomous nervous system. So there are multiple things. There's the coolness of the forest, even if it's recent heat waves. The forest is cooler because it's damper, it's more sheltered.
Yeah.
The grounding, if you're going to hug a tree,
Yeah. Did
and
you hug a tree, Roderick?
did I hug a tree? Actually, I didn't do much tree hugging.
Oh,
There
you
you go. I
missed
should have
out
done.
there.
Maybe I should have done. But of course, I was always around trees, tying up my
Yes.
tarp and that sort of thing, and that sort of thing. And so that's the light, etc. So basically, and spending time in forests is in some parts of the world today actually a recognized therapy prescribed by clinicians, and I think even subsidized by insurance companies, particularly for mental illness. So, or mental, yes, diagnoses. So,
Mm.
so the being in the forest is literally for us northern types talking about myself here, Nia, but my entire mitochondrial and genetic background comes from higher latitudes, where the boreal forest, it's that band of forest that goes around that sort of northern half of well, until you get to the cold bits, but around the world, that's where we developed. That's why, I'm white because
Yeah.
there was less UV, etc. We needed to absorb more of it. The melanin went deeper into our skin, our bodies, and that's the forest environment is will have been after the ice ages in particular, that place where we adapted to. So I think there's a kind of poetic link there as well, which I think does play out in the physiology, biology, and how we feel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, forest bathing is becoming so popular now, isn't it?
Is
There's a
it? Right. Good to
yeah,
hear because that's what we do at the Forest Circadian
yeah.
Retreat,
There you go. Yes,
amongst
exactly.
other things. But
Yeah, that was quite intense, obviously, what you did because you got the not only did you get the benefits from the fasting, but when combined with that forest bathing, so to speak, that you would have got a lot out of it. And I'm really glad that you pointed out that for water fasting, it's not just about weight loss. It's way more than that, which I think is incredibly important for people to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's just that matter of resilience. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, you do
Yes.
feel hungry at certain times,
I wanted to
particularly.
ask you
Yeah,
that, actually.
yeah. Well, by the third or fourth day, it wasn't really much that I noticed. But for sure, like that morning after waking up, I tend to. These days, I still do, something like 16:8, but I have breakfast shortly
Yeah.
after, as soon as possible after sunset, sunrise. And so that morning when you wake up at whatever 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun is coming because the sunrise is still about 10 past 5 in these parts at this time of year. But and yeah, and you start to, as you sort of pack it in, your sleeping bag, starting to pack up stuff, you start to feel that
Of
your body is saying,
course.
this is the time. That's again circadian rhythms. Even meal timing is a circadian input, even though
Yeah.
the light and dark phases are the key ones. But again, so mental resilience, overcoming that relatively mild feeling that you're hungry. I mean, but I never really got to about above about a 4 or 5 out of 10 on my hunger
Okay.
scale. You do get, after even on that first full day, you feel, okay, there's a hole, perhaps. You feel like,
Mm.
yeah, a hole is the best way of
Yes, I
describing it.
think I understand what you mean. Yeah, that kind of almost like that void, that pang. There's kind of like an emptiness,
I wouldn't
maybe.
call it a pang. For me, a pang is something that is encouraging you, stimulating you to do something about it. It's more a
Okay.
void. It's just there.
Yeah, it just feels you just feel empty. No, not empty
It's
either.
not, nah. I don't know. It depends what you mean by
A
empty. You'll
hole.
you'll you'll feel something
Yeah.
different to what I think of empty. No, for me, it's a void. It's simply
Fair
a
enough.
hole in. Yeah, yeah. But it's nothing. It's no. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's not difficult to overcome. And particularly
Yeah.
by the third, fourth day, it kind of becomes normal. I was kind of playing with the idea, always that last day when and by the way, you break the fast intentionally. I mean, sometimes you might have to do it earlier in emergency or something comes up, fine, that's fine. But you plan the fast. It's not like you say, well, from now I'm going to fast and we'll see how long I go. I don't know if
Okay.
that's a recipe for success. But if you say I'm going to fast from this time to this day and this time, then that gives you some sort of goal or end point.
Yeah.
You know that it's
Yeah.
time restricted. But every time I've done this, I've played with the idea of, well, let's just push it one more day,
Yeah.
uh, and I haven't done partially because, yeah, I'm looking forward to eating. I like
Cool.
food.
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe I'm thinking what to do next year. Maybe I'll won't do the demanding exercise, but
Yeah.
I'll go for 8 days and then see if I can, see if on the eighth day I'll push it to 9 or 10 or something like
Okay, so you think that you would like to extend the period of fasting at least
that.
next time,
Yep,
but without the strenuous exercise?
but without the strenuous exercise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you think you would do it in the wild, so to speak, again, or would you?
No, I think I like being in the wild. It was great, but I would I think I maybe over combined a bit
Yes.
because the lack of sleep, the discomfort, and the physical exercise and the fasting, I think it was quite yeah, it was quite a lot to
There was a
to
lot.
to to deal with.
For sure. Yeah. Not everybody could do it. I mean, you are, as you've used the word resilient, you really are.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, honestly,
It's very
it is
important. We are
commendable.
getting softer and softer and softer as a species. It's almost I feel like crying sometimes. And entire all biological systems develop and evolve through well, stress. I mean, but short acute stress. It's the adaptation to something new in the environment that causes a reaction. The the biological circuitry, if you like, rearranges itself to deal with it. If it doesn't, you die. But when it deals with it, then next time it's less of a stress. That's how your things build. I mean, anybody who has resistance training knows all
Yeah.
about this. You're tearing your muscles when you do that. 2 days later, they've built back stronger. That's why they get bigger or stronger.
Yeah.
And then tired, but it goes for psychological resilience. Everything is
Mm.
so easy, and I'm certainly no wild man who lives under a tree. I like my bed. I like to not be cold in the winter.
Yeah.
Although replace cold temperatures in the winter because we got heating with
Mm.
cold thermogenesis, for instance. So to give my body that experience in the winter
Yeah.
of cold because it needs it with that. That's the this is what I'll be, this forest circadian retreat is what I'll be doing is helping, first of all, experiencing all that. So we'll be doing sunset viewing, sunrise viewing, cold plunge in the river, um, forest bathing, a bit of hiking, etc., etc.
Mm.
But so they'll experience that, but at the same time, I'll be helping them because they're small groups of five to actually work out where in their daily life back home can they implement some of these things, give their body the experience of its kind of natural environment, not this artificial, protected, uh, topsy-turvy urban environment that we now live in. So yeah, I'm not. I try and build my resilience, put it that way,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
an intentional way.
Absolutely. You just mentioned there, did you say you were going to be doing something with the in the forest
The
with
f-
people?
yes, the Forest Circadian Retreat is this. Well, it's a big modern chalet that I built in that area right at the start of it. And the I'm running a pilot beginning of October. I've got one place left still. Anybody wants to fill it? It's a weekend only to start with. And exactly the idea is they'll come to a place that has been designed so that it is as least um, what's the word? At least as least impact negatively detrimental to one's kind of biology itself. So, all the lighting is going to be circadian or is
Yeah.
circadian.
Yeah.
There is some a little bit of Wi-Fi. It's necessary. It's a smart house, but at minimum, and on the other floors, there is none, etc., etc. And then sort of experience that kind of circadian mitochondrial lifestyle that means, very simple. You watch the sunset in the evening, you allow the night to fall, you go to bed in an environment that is pitch black because there's
Mm.
next to zero light pollution in that area, which is great. Certainly no local light pollution, just a little bit of glow because there are, of course, cities 5, 10, 20 kilometers away or towns. Um, we go and see the sunrise in the forest. There's a lovely river at the bottom. It's a bit shallow, but it's just about deep enough for you to lie down into. The water there
Right.
is between 3 to 8 degrees Celsius all year round. So in the summer it's 8 degrees. Outside it's like 35.
Yes.
So it's feels pretty ice cold. But to give your body that experience of the cold shock. Of course, grounding, that sort of thing. I've got infrared panels there. In the future, there'll be a sauna,
Nice.
the jacuzzi, that sort of thing. And then spend the large part, probably all of that Saturday outside in the forest doing
Yeah.
stuff. So apart from talking, we'll be walking, we'll be a little bit demanding uphill, it's hilly. We'll be, and then a friend of mine is going to, hopefully I'll be able to convince him to come and do, in English, some kind of, because, it's for midlife men primarily.
Yeah.
Things like stretches you do because most
Yeah.
people have
Hmm.
collapsed chests, etc., undeveloped or rather, uh, degenerated, I don't know, hamstrings and all these kind of things that alter your posture, just help you, create pain in your back. And also, but posture, alters how you breathe. It alters how your vagus nerve works. So, which is your, again, your autonomous nervous system, how you're able to deal with stress, and who isn't stressed these days. So, who doesn't have to face chronic stress on a chronic basis. So take a bit of that. Maybe some. He does also things like resistance training in using the forest branches, etc. He even climbs these giant trees. I don't know how he does it. These sort of 40-meter trees just on these. Anyway, and just experience the food. Of course, will be
So it won't be
basically.
fasted. It won't be fasted. You'll be
No, it won't
eating.
be fasted. No, no, no.
Yeah.
In the future, if I can get this going, then I will do, for instance, dedicated, fasting
Yeah.
retreats like that. But no,
What
this will
sort of
be.
food will you have?
It will be local seasonal,
Hmm.
which beginning of October and in Central Europe means primarily animal fish based with local seasonal vegetables.
Yeah.
So it might be some sort of, courgettes, I think, still at that time of year. Probably some of those, what are those? Some root vegetables at that time,
Yeah.
cabbage, for instance. Particularly, if I can yes, that's a great idea. I'll make my own fermented cabbage. I've done it a few times.
Nice.
So fermented cabbage, but primarily local pasture raised beef that I get once a month. There,
Yeah.
it's absolutely fantastic. Local eggs, and there's actually even, although they only open on Wednesdays, so I won't be able to get it this time. Unpasteurized milk,
Mm.
and fermented milk products as well. So there's quite a lot, and I still have to source more local producers of various things. But yeah, so I'm afraid vegans, vegetarians, unless you're living, in the tropics, it's a dangerous way to live. Sorry, that's very unwoke of me.
Oh, well. Um, that sounds really incredible. When is it? When are you holding that retreat?
That's the 2nd to the 4th of October. Including transfers from the airport if you're coming from abroad. I'll pick you up and deliver you back again. But as I said, I've got one place left, so I
One
need
place
to,
left.
and also because if you're coming from abroad, you need to organize transport to Prague. So the sooner you contact me, the better
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, perfect. I'll put your contact details below. On the note of food, let's end on how did you prepare for your fast, if that's all right, and also how did you obviously break it?
Right. I didn't prepare particularly in any specific way for the fast.
Okay. You
Just
didn't have a
generally
huge
do.
meal then the night before.
No, no, no. I didn't
Yeah.
do. I didn't do anything special. Just live the way I normally do. But my, local seasonal. So my
Yeah.
standard kind of pattern of eating and ingredients. But yes, the breaking the fast is important for a
Okay.
number of reasons. I mean, first of all, your digestive system has been not asleep, but it's switched modes for a number of days. So you want to wake it up, but you don't want to throw down there a huge amount of food. One thing not to worry about is that once you've put down, for me, it's bone broth,
Yeah.
beef bone broth, a good bowl of that. Then you sort of wait an hour.
Okay.
And what may happen, and don't be surprised if it does, is you might have to go to the loo for a very brief episode of, well, watery stool, let's call it.
Right.
But literally, it's not like when you've eaten a bad takeaway. It's literally you're in and out in 3 minutes. It's just
Right.
your guts kind of, I think, just starting to
Yeah.
move. Then I had an hour later, I had another bowl of bean broth and I cracked and stirred 2 eggs into it. Then we had to move back to Prague. So I then, about 4 hours later, had half a tub of cottage cheese with sardines because there's omega-3
Sardines.
oils. Yeah,
Hmm.
sardines. Replace them. Plus, yeah, I replaced them amongst other things. And then in the meantime, I prepared a large chunk of this regenerative beef,
Mm.
pasture-raised beef that in the slow cooked, roasted it slowly in the oven to make roast beef. So that was ready by about
Mm.
7. So basically, I actually spread my eating over about 12
Yeah, you
hours,
spread it out.
starting with liquids. They're bringing. I didn't have any fermented cabbage or any ferments. That's a good idea. Um, uh, so even some sort of some vegetables can be used for that later stage, not at the beginning.
Mm.
And then yeah, and then I enjoyed my roast beef with lots of salt on. It was lush.
I bet it was. Gosh, yeah, after all that time. And then I'm guessing the following day you just woke up, had breakfast as normal and carried on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Gosh, what a story. Are you pleased? You must feel proud. I mean, it is a big achievement, and you must feel good now, hopefully.
I feel normal. I mean, I'm just
Okay.
back, Monday back and pretty
Yeah,
much normal. Like, my calves aren't stiff anymore, which is thank God, because getting out of bed in the morning is like, oh, what to my calves? They've
of
stuck.
course. Yeah.
Um, no, I feel absolutely normal. I mean, one thing perhaps I've noticed, a little subjective, is that I notice the food more, the flavors, appreciate it more,
Okay.
perhaps. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just making this up. My brain is making this. I don't know. But no, just back to normal, back to normal.
Yeah. But your body has definitely benefited from it. So you may think it's back to normal, but your body, I'm guessing, has taken a huge sigh of relief because, as you said, there's so much regeneration that goes on.
I hope so. I'm not going to go
Yeah.
and I'm not Brian Johnson. I'm not going to go and have
No,
a panel of tests and biopsies and God
no.
knows what done to find out. But it seems that that is what is,
Yeah.
fairly confidently, at least individual items of the various, in our reductionist way, have been identified with fasting, longer fasting. I mean, the 18-6 is good. It's a good daily habit. Maybe 5-2. 5 days eating, 2 days not eating. Probably a
Yeah.
good pattern. But I think in general, the general recommendation is every so often, every quarter, every half year, do a longer fast. Some people do,
Yeah.
20 regularly, 2 weeks or 3 week fast once a year. I'm not there
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Roderick. It's been really, really interesting. Genuinely, I've learned a lot. And honestly, well done. Genuinely. I think it
Thank
was a
you.
real achievement. Yeah, really well done.
Thank you.
Right, I will leave you to the rest of your day. And again, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. Loved it.
Thank you for having me, Nia.
It's
Thank
a
you very much.
pleasure as always. Speak soon.